Okay, guys, here's the deal. Saquon Barkley, star running back of the New York Football Giants, is pissed. He is not happy with the way that his contract negotiations have developed. Right now, he's set to play under the franchise tag next season. So, if you don't know anything about football, the franchise tag is basically this power that NFL teams have where they can place it onto a player, and that player then is forced to stick with that team for 1 year past their old contract. But the plus side for the player is that they're supposed to get paid, or that they actually get paid, the average of the top five players at that same position. Okay, so you might think, hey, that sounds like that must be a pretty good payday. I'd love to get paid like a top five NFL player. Well, here is the rub with that. So the NFL world is not the same position to position. If you get placed on the franchise tag as a quarterback, like say somebody like Kirk Cousins, who has received the franchise tag multiple times in his career, at least 2 or 3 times if I'm not mistaken, that works out pretty well for guys, actually. That is a pretty good contract, especially if it's a prove it year. That's about the most you'll ever get paid to go try and prove it, and then hopefully earn a long-term contract afterwards. Most franchises would say the situation like Kirk Cousins, where a team repeatedly used a franchise tag almost year after year on him, that's not really the most responsible use for it. You kind of end up paying more than you need to in the long run. You could usually find a better deal if you were to go for something long term with that player, just to begin with. But when it comes to running backs, running backs are the number one example. They are notorious for being quote unquote underpaid in the league. Now, why do I put quotes around that? That's because that's not specifically my own point of view that they're underpaid, but I do understand what people mean. As a stud running back, as a absolute star, to which Saquon Barkley definitely is. He's a star player on his team, possibly the best player on that entire roster. I get him wanting to make more money than anybody on the roster because he probably deserves it. But he's at this position that the NFL ownership and the brass, the GMs, they've devalued that position because there's a lot of injuries for running backs. Most teams, they don't need a particular style of runner. They'd prefer to have multiple guys in a stable. So even if one goes down to injury or due to poor performance or something like that, you have just this next guy up mentality, and teams kind of run through those guys. They like to have probably 3 guys they'd feel comfortable taking carries into a game, and a lot of teams now even add a quarterback into that mix. So it gets pretty muddy. So you usually have guys that play certain roles, like a receiving back, a particular like between the tackles guy, maybe kind of a breather back who has a little bit more speed, who can really try to take advantage of a winded defense. There's all different kinds of prototypes of NFL runner and running back. But Saquon Barkley can be any one of those prototypes. He really does break the mold. He is one of the few guys who gets the raw end of the deal when it comes to the franchise tag, because he'll be set to play at a $10.1 million price tag this season. 10.1 million sounds great to you and me, but to super NFL stars like Saquon, that's doing him pretty dirty, honestly. If he were a receiver, like a wide receiver of the same caliber as he is a running back, he'd make 20 million, probably 20 million easy, I would think. And that's also, remember, the franchise tag is only 1 year long. So if he gets hurt this year playing for, quote unquote, only 10.1 million, well, he's just now lost tens of millions of dollars down the road, because the next team that he goes to, even if that means next offseason and free agency, that next team most likely will give him a longer term deal. If somebody's going to be willing to pay up for him, there's probably going to be a bidding war, and teams are going to be forced to offer him multi-year contracts, of which I'm sure he wants. That's the whole reason that he's sitting out right now. He is threatening to sit out all season. He's not participating. I've heard he is in the building, but as far as I know, he's not participating. I don't know that I can blame Saquon for threatening to sit out this whole season. We saw Lev Bell do it not too many years ago. It didn't work out great for him, but you never know. Honestly, I hope that these NFL running backs can figure out a way to get more of the money they deserve and not just have their whole stock devalued because they're put at a certain position. I think Barkley's one of those guys, you could argue that he's just as much a slot receiver if they wanted to use him like that. So hopefully this guy gets his payday, gets what he deserves. Hopefully the Giants get the running back they need, because they were a pretty good football team last year after a probably a decade plus of mediocrity. So you don't want to see them go back downwards. You want to see them keep rising. They need to keep around their stars like Saquon to do it. But who knows? This might be his last year with him, and he might not even play this year. So there it is. I've been Niners_fanman. You can find me on IG, Twitter, YouTube. That's at Niners_fanman. Make sure that you rate and review this on audio platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications so that you might win stuff on one of our live podcast recordings as long as you jump in and say hey in the chat. And until next time, guys, this is the Daily Triple. Oh, you can also subscribe to the Daily Triple down in the link below this clip. And you'll get this newsletter over here. And there's one story from each major American sport every single day. I've been Casey. This is the Daily Triple, and I'll catch you on the next one.